Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. We are from University Sultan Zainal Abidin. This video presentation was done for the subject of international migration and refugee law. We are Group 2, Section B. We are going to explain the treatment of refugee and asylum seeker with regards to the principle of non-refoulement in the Southeast Asia countries. My name is Nur Atirah binti Muhammad Zubir. My metric number is 046917. I'm going to explain the introduction part. So let's begin. The principle of non-refoulement is a fundamental principle in the international law. The principle forbids any countries from returning asylum seeker and refugee to a country which they will be in danger of a persecution based on races, ethnicities, religions, nationalities, social groups, or public opinion. The principle was further explained under the Article 33 of 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugee and 1967 Protocol. This principle is applied to the refugees and asylum seeker. So next, my teammates going to explain what are the treatment received by the refugees and asylum seekers with regards to the principle of non-refoulement in the Southeast Asia countries.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Ainina binti Muhammad Iskandar. My metric number is 047776. Today I would like to present about the definition of the refugees and asylum seekers. First of all, as we know, there are complexity of the issues arising from the flow of asylum seekers and refugees, which is globally poses huge challenges for the world destinations country. Therefore, countries universally struggle to maintain a balance between national borders to control the national borders and offering protection to millions of displaced persons in the world. Okay, back to our main point, which is the definition of the refugee and asylum seeker. According to Article 1A, Clause 2 of the 1951 Convention, a refugee is defined as any person who, owing to well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, or political opinion, is outside the country of his or her nationality and is unable, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to avail him or herself of the protection of the country of his or who, not having a nationality and being outside of the country former habitual residence, as a result of such events, is unable to, or owing to such fear, is unwilling to return to it. So, in short, we can say that the refugee actually a person who is outside his or her country of origin or habitual residence and is unable to return there because of serious and indiscriminate threat to life, physical integrity, or freedom from generalized violence, or even seriously disturbing the public order. Meanwhile, asylum seekers is defined as an individual who is seeking international protection. In countries with individualized procedures, asylum seeker is someone whose claim has not yet been finally decided on by the country in which the claim is submitted. Therefore, not every asylum seeker was ultimately be recognized as a refugee, but every refugee was initially as an asylum seeker. That's all for me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Ashraf bin Abdul Hadi. Regarding to the topic, the treatment to the asylum seekers and the refugee, regarding to the non-refoulement principle in Southeast Asian countries, in accordance to the principle of non-refoulement, either to the refugee or the asylum seekers that choose to stay in the Southeast Asia country, for example, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, were given fair service and as well as the treatment as long as they are staying in the Southeast Asia region. The main treatment, one of the main treatment that given to the refugee and the asylum seekers are the temporary shelter. The shelter actually was given to those refugee and asylum seekers by the authorities, either the country is the signing to the party of the Refugee Convention, 1951 Refugee Convention, or also not. So actually, I would like to give the example. For actually, Thailand is not the signing party to the Refugee Convention, but in Thai Cambodian borders, there are the refugee camp that name Nom Samet, Nong Chan, Secure, and Site 2 refugee camp. Next, Indonesia also not to the signing party of Refugee Convention, but in Indonesia that also have, for example, Galang refugee camp, and also in the country that signed the Refugee Convention, for example, Philippines. In Philippines, also have the Center of Refugee Processing Center, and one of the biggest refugee camp is located in the Thai Burma border, or we call it Thai Myanmar border, that named the Maila refugee camp. The Maila refugee camp is the biggest, one of the biggest refugee camp in South Asia region that's located in the Thailand Burma border. Due to its size of refugee camp and also easily accessibility of location, Maila refugee camp is considered as a center of study for the refugee, and the Maila current population that estimate about 3,000 boarding house students that have come to study in that refugee camp, and that refugee mostly come from the Myanmar itself. And next I would like to give the example. For example, Malaysia also not the signing parties to the Refugee Convention, but we throw back in 1971. Malaysia accept the refugee from the Vietnam that flee from its country during the Vietnam War, and Malaysian authorities opened the refugee camp in Pulau Bidong, located in Terengganu. So that is the proof that even many South East Asia country not the parties to the Refugee Convention, but the treatment to the refugees still a considerability in terms of temporary shelter. However, the non-signing parties like Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia actually have the right to close the temporary shelter or the refugee camp anytime it's one when they want to close due to. However, the all countries still tied to the non-refoulement principle, Article 33 of Refugee Conventions, and because non-refoulement also known as one of the customary international law, so all the country must obligate the non-refoulement and try to provide the best necessity to the refugee or also the asylum seeker, for example, in terms of shelter. I think that's all. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. My name is Siti Nur Shahada binti Harun and today I will talk about basic necessities for refugees and asylum seekers. Okay, as we all know, refugees and asylum seekers are also provided by basic necessities such as water, foods, and clothes. In every refugees camps, every refugee is provided by enough basic necessities as required or provided by UNHCR. So, in this aspect, UNHCR will deliver nutrient-rich foods and delivered kitchen items to protect the health and well-being of refugees and asylum seekers, as well as prevent to acute malnutrition, especially among children, pregnant women, and elderly. Apart from that, UNHCR also strives to ensure that refugees and asylum seekers have access to safe water and sanitation. UNHCR also has allocated amount of money to ensure that all the refugees and asylum seekers in every camp, especially in, are well provided. Even though in Southeast Asia, majority of the country do not signing party of the convention, but they are also responsible to do so by means of human rights, as there are no legislative or administrative provisions in place for dealing with the situation of refugees and asylum seekers in Malaysia, but Malaysia still provided support in a cooperation with non-governmental organization NGO as part of humanitarian support. That's all from me. Till we meet again. Assalamualaikum.
Okay, next, the rights or treatment that provided to refugee and asylum seekers in ASEAN countries include healthcare and welfare. Okay, so UNHCR work with local authorities to ensure that refugees have access to essential health care such as medical care, immunization, programs, and psychological support. And then they also provide the host country support or help or funding in providing enough health facilities to the refugees. But for countries that are not party to the Refugee Convention, the refugee and asylum seekers in that country will be provided with the healthcare and counseling from the local authorities such as NGO with the help of UNHCR. For example, Indonesia, which is not a party to the Refugee Convention, they provide basic necessities to the refugee such as clean water, sanitary supplies and medical checkup, also education to the refugee and asylum seekers in Indonesia.
Assalamualaikum and good evening. My name is Naratua Shikin and I will present about in the part of the education. Refugees and asylum seekers denied their rights of education. Education is a basic human rights enshrined in the 1989 Convention of the Right and the Child and the 1951 Refugee Convention. In order to fulfill their rights for education, most of the host country, either signing party or not, are essential and responsible to provide basic education for refugees and asylum seekers children. Refugees in Malaysia are denied access to the formal education system and thus obtain education via an informal parallel system of 128 community-based learning centres. In Indonesia, education by the Pelita Harapan Education. Refugees of the refugee children in the Indonesia get the education from the Pelita Harapan, and this foundation has now taken the initiative to open a learning centre for children in a building near to the refugees shelter in the Kalideres. That's all. Thank you.
Hello and Assalamualaikum everyone. I'm Nurul Amalina binti Muhammad Ismail. So now I will talk about the other treatments that the asylum seekers and refugees in the principles of non-refoulement in Southeast Asia countries. So there are three other treatments that the asylum seekers and refugees have, which is the first one is legal assistance, job opportunities, and financial support. So firstly, about the legal assistance is more role of UNHCR that ensure the refugees and asylum seekers well treated and will make sure that they are not be violated. So UNHCR, together with their host country as their representative, also promotes the legal and physical protection and also minimize the threats of violence for the refugees and asylum seekers. For example, in Malaysia, UNHCR Malaysia provide legal assistance, legal representations in court for offences under the Immigration Act. So, in any situation where violations of their right are done, the action will be taken towards the violator. Secondly, about the job opportunities. Some of refugees and asylum seekers are allowed to work, especially to those who are not based in refugee camps. So, most refugees are hired at the discretion of the employer. So, lastly, the other treatments, which is the financial support. So, back to the job that had been given to the asylum seekers and refugees, which is to support and help the refugees and asylum seekers financially. So, as for instance, many countries in Southeast Asia provide equally opportunities to the refugees and asylum seekers in order to help them to survive in the host countries. So, to summarize that, the other treatments, which consists of three, which is the first one is about the legal assistance, job opportunities, and financial support. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's me again. So we have reached the end of our video presentation. Before we end, this is the conclusion for the whole discussion. Refugee and asylum seeker should be protected and their rights should not be violated. Even though there are specific conventions that was established to protect or safeguard the welfare of refugees and asylum seekers, but still, tremendous cooperation was needed from all around the world to help in protect these vulnerable people. The principle of non-refoulement has laid down few measures to help refugees and asylum seekers, which is any country are prohibited to send them back to their origin country if their life is in danger. However, in a few circumstances, these principles are not applied, which is if the refugee or asylum seeker bring harm to the security of the host country. In our opinion, every country should come hand in hand to tackle the issue of refugee and asylum seeker to ensure that the issue are not protracted and cause huge damage in the future. That's all from us. Thank you.